I am Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up, the WNW 418 for Friday, February 7th, 2020. It's hard to imagine a worse week for the Democrats. Really. You had impeachment, acquittal, State of the Union in Iowa. Every one of them was a Democrat disaster. Let's start with impeachment. They wanted to drag the process out in the Senate. I reported on in the House and how unfair, and it was no due process, and it was conjured up by Adam Schiff and this CIA officer, fake phony whistleblower that never heard the phone call, and they concocted the whole story in the papers and the complaint in Adam Schiff's office, who ended up running this a dog and pony show in the House and also the Senate. And it was a complete bogus, fraudulent, constitutionally fraudulent impeachment with no felonies. With Bill Clinton, he had 11 felonies. There were real felonies they charged him with. He lost his law license. He had to pay $800,000. No, he wasn't removed, and he was also acquitted. The Senate was run by the Republicans, and it was a 50-50 tie on one vote. And, of course, Al Gore, the vice president, would have broken that tie. So he was acquitted. But Trump was acquitted totally without any tie votes or anything else. And it was an awful, and what Clinton got, his treatment in the House, he had, complete due process, complete transparency, access to everything. Not Trump and his people. No. Secret meetings down in cellars, and no transcripts, and, refusal of witnesses, and cut them off when they're asking questions. They got too hot for him. And it really just awful, fraudulent process by the weasels in the House. Complete fraudulent, period. That's the way it is. They even basically put it in a bill when they laid out how the impeachment would go in the House, and it was laid out completely. Don't take my word for it. They put it in writing. So the impeachment ended into a brick wall. The Republicans, as I predicted, even the rhinos wouldn't go for it, except for Pierre Delecto Romney, who voted a half a vote, 2 charges. He voted for 1 to convict and 1 to acquit. But, even Pierre Delecto was the only half vote that didn't make it. And to Trump got an acquittal. So disaster. They thought they could drag this thing out in the Senate. It ended with a thud. President Trump got an acquittal. His State of the Union address, in the meantime, was a dunk fest on Democrats. And just so you know, too, and I'll get to this in just a minute. I want to get to this headline here because he brought this up in his little speech, and I wanted to talk about his speech. But just hold on. Listen, Trump had an hour or so, and he's courting minorities. He's actually doing something for minorities, and had the proof and people there in the House chambers to back it up. He had a dunk fest on Pelosi. She knew it. The coven all dressed in white. All I needed was a hood, and they could be the Democrat KKK women. I mean, they all dressed in, the coven of witches. When things were going right for America, they wouldn't clap. They don't want America to do well. They want people to be beaten down so they could force this Marxism, this progressive, which is Marxism, Nazism, socialism, whatever, globalism, whatever you want to call it. And at the end, this is what I think happened with Nancy Pelosi. And I saw this, I couldn't believe it. And, she was pre-ripping it as she was behind there like some little childish, moron, pre-ripping the speech. And so she wanted to make sure she got this on camera for all to see, her ripping up the signed State of the Union address, which is supposed to be a record to her, which is why he handed it to her. She's supposed to put it in the congressional record in the House of Representatives, because that's where he gives the speech, the House. It's the biggest, place to do it. It's where they always do it, in the House of Representatives. She knew she got dunked on. In your face. It'd be like me playing Michael Jordan in his, when he was 26 years old. We're going to play a half-hour game. What are you supposed to score would be? Oh, I don't know, 400-0? I might be able to throw one from half court as he took a drink of water. Maybe I might put one in for 3 points. I don't know. But that's what happened. Dunk fest. On the other end of the court, in your face, take this home. And on the scoring end of the court, 400-0. And then he exposed the Democrats on the health care, and the unions probably went, what? Hold on, wait. I have to give up my health care. 180 million people have to give up their non-government health care. Oh, government health care. We all know how that worked out with Obamacare. And brought in the last of the Tuskegee Airmen and made him a one-star general. And a little girl got, put in a school that could actually help her. And they know, listen, this is, the Democrats know that black people are looking at this going, hey, wait a minute, what about that Miss Johnson that got let out after 21 years? The justice reform, the real justice reform, where people that had, nonviolent drug crimes and things like that got let out of prison. Johnson came out, oh, Mr. Donald John Trump, right? They made a commercial out of it. That's why the Democrats have to keep saying, oh, the Republicans are racist. Yeah, they were so racist, he made a Tuskegee Airman a brigadier general. He had one of the top people on the Border Patrol, a Hispanic guy. He got a little African-American girl a nice scholarship so she could actually learn something. He actually talked about unemployment being low. Now, according to John Williams, it's not that low, but according to the statistics they've been using for the last, since 1994, it is low. So, according to John Williams. I think this was an absolute, what a stupid move. I mean, she may as well rip the Democrat Party in half here with this petulant little move. Oh, yeah. Her backers on the mainstream media, which are co-conspirators in this seditious, treasonous fraud that have been perpetrated on America for the last few years, they were part of the media leak strategy. And you're seeing that with Carter Page saying, they leaked this stuff to the media and then they used it as, just like Nancy Pelosi brought up with the wrap-up smear. We leak something to the press and then they say it, and then we merchandise it and we get it and we use it back on people. Yes, the media leak strategy. They used it to get, help legitimize FISA warrants, and they're using it against all kinds of people. The media leak actually co-conspirators with the seditious Democrats, but she might as well rip the Democrat Party in half, because there's a segment of the Democrat Party, and I had a friend of mine call me from Massachusetts. He says, I got a lot of Democrat friends. He's a Republican. I got a lot of Democrat friends, and they're not like, they're whoa, cuckoo time. Oh, this is nuts. This is unbelievably crazy. So there's a segment of the Democrat Party that is, the people showing up at Trump rallies at 25% or something. You're seeing that, the polls anywhere from Zogby, which is 22% of Democrats say they're going to vote for Trump, to 34% of African-American Democrats going to vote for Trump. And then you have just other Democrats that, this is way too kooky for me. You got, Pete Buttigieg was talking to one woman who is a pro-lifer, and we don't have room for you in your party. What's 20 million people that don't believe in abortion that are Democrats? You got, nearly 40% of Hispanics go, yeah, we're going to vote for Trump. They know this wall is important. They can't flood the country with people that are sucking on benefits to implode the country. That's what they want to do. They want to implode the country. That's straight out of the Rules for Radical playbook. Saul Alinsky, implode the country with people's kindness, right? So this right here, I use this for the cartoon because you couldn't she's supposed to be a sharp politician. She was so dunked on. She knew she had a 400-0 score with the State of the Union address. And incidentally, according to one poll, Washington Examiner, 76% liked it and agreed with it. 70% of America, 76%. She knew she was getting smoked, creamed, crushed. In your face, dunk fest. That's why she did this. Which made it worse. So, the impeachment, disaster, hurt him. Oh, Mitch McConnell was on. He's the majority leader in the Senate, saying, I had a whole lot of senators that had tough races. And, they're a lot easier now. I was surprised on the acquittal vote that Joe Manchin, of all the Democrats, Sinema, Jones, I really thought Jones would vote too because he's down in Alabama. He's going to be, I think, running against Jeff Sessions. And the Manchin, who wants to be governor of West Virginia, that Trump won by, 30 or 40 points? And he voted. I thought the best thing Manchin could have done was to vote for acquittal on both counts. And if he got too much garbage, change parties. He'd have been the governor of West Virginia. Period. The end. Going away. The Republicans would have poured money into him. So I don't know what his deal was, but he just made it he made it really tough. Even a well-known politician like him, he made it really tough to become governor of West Virginia. He made it tough for his next election if he stays in the Senate. There's rumors that he wants to be governor of West Virginia. We'll see. And Jones, boom, put a fork in him. He's done. Stick a fork in him. He's done. You wanted to convict him on a complete phony, constitutionally fraudulent charges that involved no felonies? Stop. You're not serious. You're done in Alabama. Sinema was always a Marxist, a communist, a socialist. So I don't know what she was doing, but she was making rumblings like she would have quit it, but she didn't. But 53. And I also said even the Rhino Republicans would not vote to convict him. Can you imagine Mitch McConnell? I've been to the Senate office building. It's not that big. Could you imagine Mitch McConnell going to the Rhino Republicans going, oh, how are you all doing? Would you please get out, please, and give us some time here, whether it be Collins or Murkowski or whoever. Could you get out? Could you imagine, him? You're going to be toast. You do this, you vote him, you vote to convict him on this phony, fraudulent stuff, and you're done. You're going to be done, not just by me, but by the Republicans. And, of course, you'll be thrown away by the Democrats. Do you know, as I told you, even the Rhino Republicans would vote to acquit the president. We got 53 on one count and 52.5 on another count because Mitch Romney was the only idiot Rhino that voted him down. He couldn't help himself. Pierre Delecto. And he couldn't read the polls in the state. We're running at about 70%. Hey, Mitch, don't do that. We like Trump. Utah. And Trump, in his victory dinner, let's get to that. Trump in his, he held up this, okay. So Trump held up these headlines. Acquitted. He held up the USA Today. How many times have I shown you these unfair hard articles in USA Today where, Trump is evil and Hillary wants to, during the election, and Hillary wants to cure Alzheimer's. Really, I kid you not. There was actually a headline like that. Or the New York Times or the Washington Post. And they all came out with this sort of a headline. And Trump held it up for the Washington Post. I got to tell you, folks, I can't remember. Because I'm sure they trashed him in their stories. But I can't remember positive headlines from any of those. New York Times, Washington Post, even my local, communist newspaper that loves to reprint stuff from the Washington Post. Even them, got a acquittal, a positive headline for a first, as far as I'm concerned, at least since the election. And I've been watching all this stuff. That's why I stopped getting the USA Today. Even the USA Today had a headline. And the president brought this up. But let me tell you, I want to drill down on his meeting. It wasn't a press conference. It was celebrations, what he called it. And he thanked all of his attorneys, and they did a great job. And he thanked people around the room. And he had some jokes, like Steve Scalise says, Steve, he's the one that was the congressman shot by that crazy wacko socialist Democrat while they were practicing for a baseball game against the Republicans, GOP, against the Democrats. And, Steve Scalise was playing second base and got shot and survived. And the president was like, hey, Scalise, you look better now. You're more handsome. I mean, everybody was laughing. He had him in the palm of the hand. Couple of things. When I was watching this, it went on for, 45 minutes, an hour, his celebration. Lots of stuff in there. No teleprompter. And I think the way people were warming up to him, it looked like that the Republicans, even the ones that didn't like him, I didn't know this, Mark Meadows was not for Donald Trump when he first came out. Trump said his wife told him that. He said Meadows is now, that's for sure. So it was kind of a funny little bar, but it was. But listen, it looked like the Republicans were finally gelling behind the president after all this time, like he won them over. There's always Pierre Delecto. That was just stupid on his part. my prediction was correct. I was wrong that at least one, maybe two Democrats would vote to acquit, but I still was right that all even the Rhino Republicans would vote to acquit. Of course, Pierre Delecto, which is his Romney's Twitter name that he was trying to post anonymously with Pierre Delecto. But anyway, let me drill down. He's brought up Hillary Clinton. He brought up the Strzok and Page, the lovers, and the insurance policy, and how the Mueller people knew that in the first day or two that the whole thing was total lie, and that they kept it going for 2 years, and talked about Hillary Clinton and her emails being erased, and nothing happened to her, and Strzok, the lovers, and he fired that slimeball Comey, and he caught him. And then he said, this could never happen again. Does that mean he's going to turn on the offensive, that the offensive is going to come on? Now, he can't sit there in front of everybody and say, we're going to get him. He can't do that. He's got an attorney general, there's protocol, all that. But I'm thinking, why is he bringing all this up? Is he signaling that they're going to go on the offensive? Because they need to. What they did was sedition, treason, fraud. How dare he break up their kickback schemes? And their corruption in places like China. He also brought up China and Biden and Ukraine. And you haven't heard much from former prosecutor and Mayor Rudy Giuliani. He was a top-notch federal prosecutor, knows how to make a case on big people. And I think he just kind of sat back until after this all happened. You expect to hear more from Rudolph Giuliani. He knows how to build a case. And then you hear senators wanting the Republican senators wanting, Hunter Biden's travel records and what he did over in China and what he did in Ukraine and I mean, the Democrats had to borrow big picture stuff now. They had to borrow $10 million in the middle of 2019. That's not a healthy party. Republicans aren't borrowing money; they're raking in money hand over fist. And so they needed these kickback schemes, these frauds, Hillary's Clinton Foundation was a global charity fraud. That's how she bought out the Democrat, the DNC, the Democrat National Committee, and took it over. She took over the Democrat Party for a while for $20 million, which I think Bloomberg's taken over, but he's got a sack of rotten potatoes is what he's got. I mean, the Democrats should be thanking their lucky stars that impeachment and acquittal and State of the Union were all going on because Iowa was an unmitigated disaster, chaos, fraud, charges of cheating Bernie Sanders, Buttigieg paying somebody for this app. He was in on paying. The Clintons had kind of some involvement, and their people were involved in the apps and the counting. And the other big headline out of Iowa, there's a couple. The really big headline was it was a low turnout. What was Trump saying, in his victory, his celebration dinner? These guys can't count the votes in Iowa, and they want to take over, kick 180 million people off the healthcare rolls and take over healthcare in America? Really? They can't count a vote for a primary caucus, that was a low turnout. The other big headline was the Trump turnout for the Republicans and Trump was huge. He was virtually uncontested. He won 98% of the votes. I mean, huge. Yet the Democrat turnout, not so much. Now Tom Perez, the head of the DNC, we need to recanvass the entire state of Iowa. Wait, I thought you had all this technology and these apps and you had it down and you were the cool party and you guys were with it. We've got to get rid of Trump. You guys can't even count a small turnout in Iowa? Disaster. And of course they're trying to cheat Bernie Sanders. Call him what he may, but he's a socialist, communist, whatever. He knows that the, Medicare for all, he's told the union straight out, well, yeah, you're going to lose your health care. But they don't want him. I mean, the Democrats are more of the party of Wall Street than anybody would ever imagine. Wait, who do you got there? A bunch of billionaires now on stage talking about how awful it is to have rich white people in control of you, and that's the people that are running. Except Buttigieg. So, yeah, disaster, Iowa. Total. They still don't really know who won. Bernie Sanders is saying he won. You know, the head of the DNC is saying we need to recanvass all the votes. I mean, what a disaster. Disaster. And they're going to try to screw Bernie again. I was talking to a Bernie Sanders supporter. I said, well, you know, they're going to try to screw him again. And they, yes, I know. You talk about a unbridled civil war in the Democrat Party. You got evil hating on evil. Oh, man. Disaster. One, impeachment, disaster. Acquittal, disaster. State of the Union, disaster. Iowa, a disaster. It's hard to imagine a worse week for the Democrats. Really. I want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in the markets. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Listen, if Hillary Clinton would have gotten office, we'd be in a full-blown depression. She would have forced everything down. There wouldn't have been any, cutting of regulations. Trump in his speech was talking about his celebration, talking about all the judges that got put in, all the things that they've done. They brought back all this capital with the repatriation of funds. Listen, corporate America loved that for a low tax rate. I think it was 5 or 10%. He's done everything he could to try to set the country up. And this is while, Nancy Pelosi said, that, he just had a manifesto of lies. Really? I mean, nobody in the room said, what lies? Tell me, if it's a manifesto, all these lies, give me 2 or 3. When she had to come out and say, well, his economy wasn't as good as what Obama's was. Wow, Obama had QE1, QE2, Operation Twist, all this intervention, all this bond buying, $500 million in bond buying, $500 billion, in bond buying, all that. They never raised interest rates, but 2 times in 15 and 16 by 1/4 point. Not Donald Trump. They were raising rates like crazy. I think they raised them 8 times, and they were burning cash, $700 billion. I mean, you had Jim Rickard saying, imagine, helicopter money. That's Bernanke's term, Ben Bernanke, the former Fed chairman. That's, a helicopter with them throwing money out. With Powell, he's doing the opposite. Imagine him standing by a big blast furnace with big shovels of money, throwing it into which is why we ended up with liquidity crisis, why we ended up short on cash. So they raised rates and they burned cash, liquidity. That was during the Trump administration, and the economy still did pretty well. And that's according to all the published reports, and John Williams, who came out, was one of the first to come out and said the Fed is killing the economy, which they were. And so brings us to this whole coronavirus thing. Listen, I don't know what's going to happen with the coronavirus, and I don't know really how bad it is, but somebody thinks it's really bad. But the first thing I want to tell you about is about this. On Sunday, all week long, the Dow futures were 595 points down. Listen, I'm not a market expert, but usually you might get a bad day if you had 100, 150. That'd be going to be a tough day on Wall Street. 595 points down, Dow points, and then come magically on Sunday night just for the market open. They drive the futures, which is a prediction of how the market's going to operate, up 200 points up. Meanwhile, China opens up 8% down. But we had a good day in the stock market. So here we have this, just a little story. Another massively oversubscribed term repo confirms persistent liquidity woes. This happened earlier this week. Liquidity crisis, zero hedge. The liquidity crisis that continues to percolate just below the surface of the market has clogged up the critical plumbing with the U.S. financial system. Is getting worse, not better. I mean, I think they had demand for 57 billion, and the Fed put out 30 billion. They can't stop. Remember, Martin Armstrong was on and said, they can't stop. I said, well, if they do stop, are you telling me they're going to have a daisy chain of global debt defaults around the world? Yes, he said, Martin Armstrong. He knows a lot more than I do. But I will tell you, in terms of this coronavirus, is that, Cathay Pacific in Hong Kong, they're laying off 27,000 people. They're stopping flights for 3 weeks. That's a fact you can count on. The borders have been closed in North Korea, in Russia. The U.S. is also curtailing flights they are quarantining tens of millions of people. Hyundai, BMW, Toyota, probably GM, Ford, anybody making a car over there has stopped production. How long can that go on? I had somebody write me who is a worker in the oil field. He said, we got some really critical parts in the oil industry and also critical chemicals in the oil industry that we need from China. Stuff for medications and parts. And there's a variety of things here in the petroleum industry that, we need from China. How long can this go on for? How long can the Fed paper over this? And listen, if this goes down, it won't be Donald Trump's fault. No. He'll say, listen, I had things rolling. I can't stop the craziness that's going on in China. Folks, I know it looks fantastic, but there is no doubt the Federal Reserve has taken over the repo market. They have. That's a fact. They never did that before. There is no doubt the plunge protection team are intervening. There is no doubt they're buying stocks, they're buying futures, that they're intervening in the markets. We don't have a legitimate market or markets. We don't have legitimate price discovery. We have interventions, manipulations, money printing, and massive criminal fraud. That's what we got, folks. Now, how long can that go on for? I don't know. Now, add in the wrinkle of China, the number 2 economy, and a place that the world gets a lot of stuff, including the U.S., and that people, American manufacturers, and actually manufacturers from around the globe are shutting production down. That's a fact. I don't know how bad this will get, how contagious it is, how many people will die, how many people will be infected. I don't know, but the supply lines are getting shut. The factories are being closed. The latest was Hyundai. Hyundai was the latest to close down production to go along with BMW, Toyota, probably GM, Ford. Everybody else over there is shutting production down. They have to be Apple iPhones. Anybody over there making anything is probably having a hard time. Have to. Of course, that's all profits with American companies too, not just the supply lines, but the profits in the American companies. Hey, what could go wrong doing business where there's a dictator for life, a one-party system, no rights for the people, that they have concentration camps, they persecute and kill Christians, they lock people up for their religious beliefs, they harvest the organs of dissidents, what could go wrong? And they have social credit scoring for people. Just to name a few things, what could go wrong in a society like that? And I think we're seeing it. Maybe this will blow over before it gets too bad, but you can't count on that. Maybe it won't. It doesn't look like this is going to stop anytime soon. All I'm saying is take some risk off the table. You should protect yourself. You got some winners. You might want to sell them and bank it. You might want to pay off your house, your car. You might want to just, kind of take some risk off the table. And in case something really bad happens, because I'm sure it's going to go from bad, boom, F-15, straight up or straight down. So just listen, take some risk off the table. I'm not saying be afraid, be scared. I want you to be informed, okay? Be informed. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com. Oh, incidentally, the new player I was trying with Daily Motion just didn't work out. There were too many commercials. I couldn't get it to play on all platforms. They weren't that much. They're nice people at Daily Motion. I don't think they were really ready to produce a player for a site like mine, like USA Watchdog, I should say, because I have a partner. But a family member. But it's not like they were ready for that. They're not bad people. They just weren't ready for that. It wasn't worth the hassle. It didn't pay that much. And a lot of people were really upset by it. Some people worked just fine. And, I'm going to keep continuing to experiment because I don't really need to build a website, a channel on Vimeo or BitChute or anywhere else. USA Watchdog gets almost as many views as YouTube does. They don't count it. And so I need a player on the site, which we're going to get to at some point. So I went back to the YouTube player, which works pretty good. I got to tell you, it does work pretty good. I just, there's just that revenue issue. So anyway, I just want to let you know that thank you for putting up with it. I appreciate it. And I really appreciate your support of USA Watchdog with your comments and donations. And remember to fear not, prepare yourself mentally, physically, above all, spiritually, fear not. God the Father and his Son, Jesus Christ, are all firmly in control. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com.